All right, this Saturday we have a big fight. Saturday night in the States. It's going to be on in the wee hours of Sunday morning over here in the UK. I will be doing a live watch along for this one. I have to. This is a really good fight. It's a fight that I guess I would call this a consolation prize. The fight that I wanted, and I think the fight that the majority of fans wanted to see, is David Benavidez. That's the fight you want to see for Canelo Alvarez. We aren't getting that, and we may not get it anytime soon. I'm hoping that I'm proven wrong with that and that we do get it, but I would say, especially Benavidez now going to be fighting at 175. It's unlikely we'll see this fight. In terms of Alvarez versus Munguia, again, I would say it's a very good consolation prize. It really, truly is. Let's talk about, very briefly, the tail of the tape. Canelo Alvarez, I still can't believe he's had this many. He's been around for so long. Alvarez, 60 fights, 2 defeats and 2 draws, 64 fights in total. That's insane. And he's only 33 years old. He'll be 34, I think, he's 34 in July at some point. Alvarez has been pro now for nearly a decade. October 29th, 2005, he turned pro. Insane. And he's been operating at world level for the majority of that time. Absolutely insane. He stands 5'8" tall. I'd say closer to 5'7", with a 70-inch reach. He is going in there against Jaime Munguia, who BoxRec don't have his reach listed, but he stands 6 foot tall. He brings to the ring a professional record of 43 fights, 34 of those wins coming by way of knockout, no defeats, no draws. You know, Munguia, I remember him when he fought Saddam Ali back in 2018. I believe that might very well, at the time, there was talk that Munguia, it wasn't on the undercard I was thinking of, but there was talk at the time of Munguia potentially going in and fighting Triple G and Danny Golovkin. This was at the time when Canelo Alvarez had the tainted beef issues, and I think Munguia was only about 21 years old at the time. He was fighting at 154. There was a lot of talk that maybe he'd be going in there to fight Triple G. He never did. He beat Saddam Ali, who about a year prior thereabouts upset Miguel Cotto in his retirement fight. Saddam Ali had no real answer for anything Munguia did, just completely wiped the floor with him. And he had a good few fights in 2018. Liam Smith, Brandon Cook, Tashi Inoue. I remember that fight. That Tashi Inoue guy was wild. But then he had that really rocky fight against Dennis Hogan. A lot of people felt that he lost that fight. He then decided to move up, but I think he actually had one more fight at 154 pounds before moving up and having a very uninspired, unspectacular run at 160, during which he never even fought for a world title. He fought the likes of Spike O'Sullivan, Trio Johnson. The Sarah Meta performance, I believe that was actually on at a good time in the UK. I think that was when DAZN were doing fights in the States at good times in the UK. Because I remember Bakadir Jalilov getting knocked out badly by Gabe Rosado on that card. That was actually a really good performance by Jaime Munguia against Sarah Meadow. Had a bit of a, he went in there against Gabe Rosado, did what he needed to do, but then you kind of saw the level drop a bit, but the fights get a little bit tougher in a way. Like when he fought Derevchenko, I know that he fought him last year. That was his kind of start at 168 pounds. I don't want to say I was going to say he struggled in that fight. Did he really? He definitely, I mean, you look at the scorecards, it would say, yeah, it was a close fight. Derevchenko really gave it his all in that fight. He was down late in the fight, which really did kind of win that arguably for Munguia. But Munguia, it was an entertaining fight. It was a war. But I think Munguia made that fight harder than it needed to be. I think he realised something was amiss. And then he started working with Freddie Roach. We obviously saw against John Ryder. Now I expected Munguia to win that fight, but he looked really good in that fight against John Ryder. He looked really, really good. He dropped John Ryder a bunch of times. And John Ryder, you can say fair enough. He retired immediately after the fight. He was coming in off the back of a loss to Canelo Alvarez as well. And although he went the distance with Canelo, he took a bit of a beating in that fight, to say the least. He took a beating. So you could argue that John Ryder was the fight really kind of beaten out of him by that point. You could argue it, but nevertheless, I still felt it was a very good performance by Jaime Munguia compared to some of the performance he'd had over the last few years. Like I said, Sarah Meta was a good performance. But really after that, you could look at the rest of his fights and say they were meh, especially the Revchenko fight. So I liked what I saw against John Ryder. Him going in there against Canelo Alvarez, it could be interesting. In terms of Alvarez, I mean, I don't really need to say anymore. His resume pretty much speaks for itself. I would say with Alvarez, Alvarez, he hasn't had a knockout. It's not the end of the world in over 2 years. He's been going the distance a lot lately. He seems to be fighting more. He's always fought in spurts, Canelo Alvarez, but it seems more so now. He's taking little rest in between fights. As in, like, when he's in the fight, he's taking more, like, kind of time. He's letting his combinations go and he's rest. He was a little bit more active a couple of years ago. If you look at Alvarez, I want to say from the Triple G rematch, which was September 2018, probably up until he fought Bivol. At that time, you would say that Alvarez, I mean, you look at the names he was fighting, and just back to back, Avni Yildirim will take him out of the equation, and Rocky Fielding too. No disrespect to those guys, but you're talking about Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders, Callum Smith, Sergei Kovalev, Danny Jacobs. Insanity, really. And he's fighting these guys are sometimes back to back. Avni Yildirim being the exception. If you take him out of the equation, he would have fought Jacobs, Kovalev, Smith, Saunders and Plant. That's insanity. It really is. He cleaned up 168 pounds, won the super middleweight world title, undisputed in less than a year. That was Alvarez really firing on all cylinders. Came short against Dimitri Bivol. And I want to say maybe in the Bivol fight, it was a case of he just ran into someone who was a little bit too talented, a little bit too big. But maybe at that point, Alvarez, you could argue that was kind of when, I don't want to say he's on the decline. I don't think he's in his peak anymore, but I don't think he's over the hill. Certainly not. But I don't think we'll ever see an Alvarez as good as we did kind of 2018 to 2021. I think those 3 and a bit years, you are looking at peak Alvarez. Peak Canelo Alvarez. I don't think we quite have that anymore. I'm not saying we're far removed from that, but I don't think we have quite that level of Alvarez anymore. I don't think we'll get it again. He looked kind of... The Triple G fight was just a bit of a muchness. It was just kind of... Yeah, Canelo won it, but it was more like a spar. Against John Ryder, he looked okay. He clearly won the fight. He gave John Ryder a beating. But again, you kind of just seen him. He didn't really lose any rounds in that fight, but you kind of thought, okay, you're expecting more. When Canelo Alvarez dropped him, you were thinking, all right, it's only a matter of time. But John Ryder survived. Against Charlo, yeah, Canelo looked good. He dropped Charlo in that fight, but that right there, the less said about that fight, the better. Canelo did what he needed to do against an opponent who really just wanted to pick up a payday. That's all Charlo did. He didn't do anything of any significance in that fight. It was really him moving up 2 weight divisions to say, where's my check? There you go. Look, you don't hurt me, and I'm not even going to try and hurt you. And that was that. So, yes, Canelo looked good in parts in that fight, but he was in there against, someone who just wasn't trying. So it was easy to look good. The action was never pushed with Canelo in that fight against Charlo. Against Jaime Munguia, he is going in there against someone who is altogether different. I mean, it's a very different style, Munguia. He's not an out-and-out boxer puncher that Charlo is. Munguia is pressure. He's high volume. He's got some decent power there, but he is primarily a pressure volume fighter. When you look at the John Ryder fight, it was more so... I'm sure the power played a factor. It definitely did. But the volume, the relentlessness, the accuracy of Munguia... that played a big role in him being able to go in there and just walk straight through John Ryder. Just go through him like a hot knife goes through butter. Against Canelo Alvarez, he is going to need to be a lot more circumspect when it comes to defense. 110%. Munguia, offensively, there's not an issue there. The issue is defense. Because Alvarez is a wicked combination puncher to head and body, and he's also a tremendous counter puncher. If you're someone who gives Canelo opportunities that he normally would need to look for, if you're just presenting them on a silver platter, he is going to have a field day with you. He really is. He's going to have an absolute field. He's going to light you up like a Christmas tree. He's not going to have to go looking for Jaime Munguia in this fight, because Munguia, I would imagine, is going to be straight on the front foot, looking to just set a high pace, try and make Canelo work, but he's going to be giving Canelo opportunities to hit him. So Munguia would be well advised. And to be honest with you, I think that Munguia actually going on the front foot and setting a high pace, making Canelo work, dictating the pace of the fight isn't a bad idea. The problem is that Munguia is, as I said, very lax when it comes to defense. And you can be, not to say it's a good thing, but he was lax against defense against the likes of Dennis Hogan. He was caught a couple of times by Spike O'Sullivan. They don't have anything near the firepower of a Canelo Alvarez. They're not as accurate with their counters. They're not as good combinations. They're just not as good. I mean, they're far cry from Canelo Alvarez. Same with Derevchenko. You know, as good as Derevchenko is, and he is a good fighter, he's not Canelo Alvarez. He's not even close to that level. So Canelo, he will light Munguia up in there if he is defensively laxed. Now, if Munguia is smart with his defense and he's smart with his pressure, he can have success in there, because with Alvarez, since the days he was fighting at 154, he's always seemed to have issues with stamina. Now, when I look at him back in the days when he was fighting at 154, which is a long time ago now, he was huge at the weight, and he was taking God knows how much out of him just to make that weight. So when he was fighting on fight night, he was fighting in spurts because he was still he's probably overtrained like hell to try and get down to 154 or 155 pounds when he's fighting at Canelo weight. When he went to middleweight, he definitely seemed to be a bit better, seemed to be hitting a bit harder. And then when he went to super middleweight, I thought that he found his weight division. The only thing is, though, is that Canelo Alvarez has put on weight, put on extra muscle weight to be able to really hang with the guys. In terms of skills, he is supremely skilled. In terms of power, he's got very good power at 168. You would say physicality would be somewhere where Canelo was lacking. He is a good bit smaller than these guys, so he's tried to compensate and put on some muscle. Problem with that is when you put on muscle that your body wasn't designed to carry around, and you fight as explosively as Alvarez does, you're going to get tired. You're absolutely going to get tired. And if you're not able to exploit that, which Bivol was able to do very well in their fight, then you're giving Canelo chances to look impressive, look amazing, dazzle with those combinations, those big right hands, and then he can just reset, take his time, move around the ring, lie on the ropes, slip a few shots, and then launch a counter attack again. Basically, Canelo Alvarez, one of the ways to beat him that Bivol did. Now Bivol, I'm not saying Bivol and Munguia are the same fighter. They're certainly not. Bivol is way better than Munguia. But what he did was he never gave Canelo opportunities to really rest. When Canelo worked, Bivol was defensively sound. And when Canelo didn't want to work, Bivol was just, combinations, punches, throwing. Even if they weren't landing, he was making Canelo just look lazy. Just have that image of him on the ropes, trying to slip shots, taking shots. And he was making Canelo work, and he was working when Canelo didn't want to be doing it. And that, I think, is the best thing that Munguia can do. Make Canelo work when he doesn't want to work. Be wary of defense the whole time, especially against someone with the firepower of Canelo Alvarez, because it's not just the right hand to look for, it's the left hook to the head, it's the left hook to the body. Canelo Alvarez is also very good at disguising shots. And the Munguia, as I said, he can be a bit lax, especially with letting right hands get through. You don't want to be doing that. Canelo is great at disguising shots. And what I mean by that is, if you see him, especially when he's looking to set up a left hook to the head, there are times he might just slip a left hook to the body and he'll drop that shoulder, giving the opponent the idea, okay, left hook to the body is coming, get the elbow down, tuck it in, and as he's throwing it, it's coming up to the head and whack. If you look at round 2 against Triple G in their rematch, I think it was round 2 anyway, one of the shots that really you remember from that fire, from the early rounds, is Triple G getting hit with a flush left hook to the head, because Canelo Alvarez dip with the shoulder down. Triple G is thinking, all right, left hook to the body is coming, crap, he's hit me in the head. He's so good at disguising those shots. He's actually great at doubling up the left hook as well, to head to the body. If you look at the Liam Smith knockout, the knockout that finished Liam Smith, he does a little, he's backed against the ropes. Liam Smith is, he's got the elbows up. Canelo Alvarez throws a left hook to the head. It brings the arm of Liam Smith up. And what does that do? Frees up the rib cage, the solar plex. And Canelo Alvarez, no sooner has he just thrown that left hook to the head, boom, down to the body, Liam Smith was done at that point. There was nothing he could do. And you've got an enormous target like Jaime Munguia, because he is big. He's a very big man. I know he's coming from 154, but I don't know how he ever made that weight. You You present yourself an open target like that, Canelo Alvarez is going to light you up. He's going to light you up like a Christmas tree. So you need to be educated. It needs to be educated pressure from Jaime Munguia. When Canelo Alvarez is on the ropes, start working. Work. Make Canelo work. Even if Canelo is slipping the shots and waste, like, people may look and be like, oh, you're not really making him waste energy. He's not throwing, he's slipping shots. Yeah, but he's having a thing. He's having to slip those shots. He's having to use lateral movement. He might be having to use his feet to get out of the way. There's ways you can actually pressure a fighter while you're not taking any stamina out of yourself, but you're making the opponent actually take stamina out, even though he's not actually punching to keep you off. You look at Kiko Martinez is very actually good at doing that, pressuring and making the opponent constantly think and have to move and reset and think, and they're actually using energy while he's not doing anything. He's literally just, I'm just coming in. I'm just coming in with the earmuffs on. You're finding it hard to hit me. I might not be able to hit you, but you're using more energy than I am. Munguia be well advised, and I think Freddie Roach would be advised to have him try and do some of those tactics. At the end of the day, we can go by what we know already. And I know what I'm going to expect with Canelo Alvarez, and likewise I know what I'm going to expect with Munguia. I don't think Munguia can really change that. I think what you see is what you get. He is a offensive juggernaut, but defensively he leaves a lot to be desired. He leaves a lot of holes, and if there's ever a fighter you don't want to give opportunities to, it's Canelo Alvarez. To counter, to let combinations go, you just don't want to do that. And if you are a little bit lax in defense, then Canelo Alvarez, again, he is not the guy you want to be in there with, because he will light you up. He'll hurt you, he'll hit you with really hard thudding shots, and ultimately if your defense is really that bad, he'll take you out. And that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. I think Munguia, it's going to be a good fight, don't get me wrong. It's not going to be a stinker. It's not going to be one fighter coming to win and the other fighter not coming to win. And Munguia's going to come to win, but ultimately I just think that lack of defense, and just that he's not as good as Canelo. It's simple as that. He's not as good as Canelo Alvarez. I think that ultimately that's going to be his detriment, and I expect Canelo to win this fight. I would say the safe bet would be Canelo Alvarez on points, but maybe I want to be a little bit of a adventurer, and I'm going to go Canelo Alvarez to win this fight by late stoppage between rounds 9 to 12. I think that Canelo Alvarez, he'll break Munguia down, and ultimately he'll take him out late. That's what I think is going to happen in this fight. Canelo Alvarez to win this fight by stoppage in what will be a very entertaining fight. Munguia will certainly have his moments, but I'm going with Canelo Alvarez to win this fight by stoppage. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. Just even talking about this fight has me excited for it. As I said, I would rather see him in there with Benavidez, but this is a good consolation prize nonetheless. Let me know. I'm looking forward to this. I will I'll be obviously doing videos this week as well. I've got a lot to look forward to, which I'll talk about in a separate video. For now, I'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button if you could, and subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Peace.